From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Stacey Hylen with me, and we're going to talk about how to increase your revenue without the hustle. Sit back, relax, enjoy. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm here with my guest, Stacey Hylen. Hey Stacey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Rob. Excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. It's at the time this record, it's another snowy day in Canada, so it has started again. Um, Today we thought we'd talk about things like how do you increase your revenue as an entrepreneur without the hustle, which is really important. But what I wanted to find out first was a bit about your background and how you got into this field and a bit about you.
Oh my gosh, sure. So, like I said, my name is Stacey Hylen, and I've been a business coach for 25 years. So that included being vice president of consulting with Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins for their business mastery brand.
Yeah.
So I've really had my hands in thousands of businesses over the last 25 years, helping them scale, helping them grow. But my particular differentiator is without the hustle. And that came because I was very young. I was 26. My dad passed away. And it was pretty suddenly. He got diagnosed with cancer in the end of September, and the day before American Thanksgiving, he passed away.
I'm sorry.
And he was 56 years old. So you and I know, like, that seems really young now, right? Especially as we get older. And so
Yeah.
at the time, I was in sales, in straight commission sales, selling high-end equipment. And what happened was is that I was selling, and I was really good at sales. I had been selling since I was in third grade. I had my first business and started selling B2B in fifth grade. And what happened was that when my dad died, I was like, you know what? I'm not enjoying this sales, the sales process. I was more enjoying the consulting process because I was doing a very consultative sales process. So I was helping my business owners that I was selling to grow their businesses. And one
Yeah.
of the businesses grew her business 200% in 1 year. And
Wow.
so it just like, because of the way that happened, and with my dad passing, it made me really look at, what did I want to do in the future? And
Mhm.
so I decided that I was going to build this business. I was going to build it around the life I wanted, around my future family. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids at the time, but I built it in a way that I was able to have multiple six figures with still, picking up the kids after school, taking my kids. Like, one of my daughters was a national level gymnast here in Canada, so we were, flying all over and going to lots of competitions. So I really want that for my entrepreneurs that I work with, that they are able to grow a business and still have the life that they want. That's really
Yeah.
important.
Couple of key things here. You said you worked with Tony Robbins. When we talked and first met, I told you I love Tony. I've done Walk on Fire with Tony twice now. And that is just an empowering experience. I love the man. I can remember standing next to him and just kind of looking up because he is a tall
These
man.
big hands like this.
Yeah, yeah, I have been a fan of Tony since I've been young. So, and I'm 58 for a long time. I like his work. I like what he does. The other thing we find in entrepreneurs, and one reason why I find Tony is I'm a big mindset guy. I always have
Mhm.
been. And Tony teaches mindset. You teach mindset.
Yeah.
And I think where entrepreneurs have a tough time in growing is a couple of things. One, they kill themselves working. So they think,
Mhm.
oh, I can work 70 hours this week and nothing's going to suffer. Well, sooner or later, your family, your relationship, your kids, something's going to give in all this.
Your
Or
body,
your
right? Your body's
quality,
sitting all those
or
hours.
your own health. Yeah. And then the other thing is more entrepreneurs, because they try and play the hustle game, go through mental health crashes and they
Mm.
don't take care of the mental health side of that. And, you know, I always say to entrepreneurs I talk to, do you go see a counselor? No, I'm fine. I said, but you go see a doctor for a checkup. So why don't you? So that's kind of my philosophy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, where do you take that entrepreneur? So you've got John who comes and sees you. He's working 70 hours a week. And he says, the only way I can increase revenue is if I work 80 hours a week. What do you do with that?
Oh, that's a fun one. That's a fun one. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, first of all, like more work doesn't equal more revenue,
Yes.
right? More of the right work equals more revenue,
Mhm.
right? So focusing
Mhm.
on revenue generating activities. And one of the things that I do with all of my clients before we get into like all of the strategy and all of that stuff that we do is to really look at where their hidden profits are. I have a book coming out, Hidden Profits, More Clients and More Cash.
Awesome.
And
Yes.
so we look at where are the things that you can do to increase your revenue without doing more marketing, without working harder, without needing a big team to do it. So we'll look at things like how is their pricing, right?
Mhm.
I talked to an entrepreneur this week that she hadn't raised her prices in 7, 8 years, right? And so
How come?
she was in between her and her competitors. There was about I want to say a $300 difference, $350 difference. And
Mhm.
it's like she can't now come to her clients and say, oh, it's $350 more, right? Because it's going to be a huge shock and she's going to lose a lot of people. So that's a one easy area is to look at your pricing, which also goes back to mindset of why people keep their prices the same and don't
Yeah.
incrementally increase them. But that's a huge one that we see a lot of times with entrepreneurs. And there's a bunch of other hidden profits that we look at to
Yeah.
add.
Pricing's a big one. And I'll share this, and I've shared this very publicly. 2 years ago, I took all my pricing, and I knew I was going to do it in November. And I said, January 1, it's all going up by not 5%. It all went up by 25% across the board. Didn't even think about it, Stacey. And somebody said, you're going to lose a couple clients. And my response was, good.
Yeah.
And they said, what do you mean good? I said, you know what I'm going to get rid of? I'm going to get rid of all the crap and all the problems that I don't want because I've learned over the years the clients that are fighting on price are the ones that are going to drive you the most nuts. They're the
Oh,
ones that
yeah.
are going to want the most for nothing. They're the ones who are going to play scope three. And it goes on and goes on.
Absolutely.
Do you know I lost one client when I raised my price by
That's
25%?
fantastic. Well, it just shows that the
Yeah.
value was there, right? And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of times what we'll do with that is we'll look at, what is the value that you're providing to your clients?
Hmm.
Because that needs to be really anchored in psychologically before you raise your price. Because if you're just thinking, oh, I'm a commodity and people are shopping around for the best price, then you don't have that confidence when you go and you raise your price.
No question. I think one of the problems entrepreneurs have is in the entrepreneur business, we all talk about reoccurring revenue, right? So we
Mhm.
all try and get clients on reoccurring revenue problems. And a lot of entrepreneurs say, oh, great, do not contact me. It's easy because I'm bringing in this monthly income. And my response to that is, yeah, but when they look at their bank statements and say, what is this monthly charge for? I guarantee you sooner or later that charge is going to disappear because they're going to say they don't see the value you're providing. So
Right.
one of the things I actually teach clients is out of sight, out of mind is not a good thing. You
Right.
actually, even if you've got clients on reoccurring revenue plans, you have to communicate in regular basis with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially if you want a sticky clientele, right? That stays for a
Yeah.
long time. I have clients now that have been with me for 15 years.
Mhm. Me
And
too.
so you're still having to kind of reflect the value back to them because if they looked at, like, for example, with the coaching, how much they're paying per coaching call, it's not about what they're paying per coaching call. It's the increase in revenue that they're getting, it's the peace of mind that they're getting from whatever it is that you're doing. In this case, it's the coaching and consulting that I'm doing with them. So
Yeah,
really anchoring that in.
it's the end result. So it's not, let's throw a figure out of, call it $500 an hour, whatever it is, right? If you're paying that 500, but you're generating $1,000 in revenue uh, every week, then you got to look at where it's getting you, not the $500.
Absolutely.
And I think people are short-sighted on that. Um, why do people get into this mindset that they just have to work harder and that will fix all their problems?
Well, I think it's a cultural thing in North
Yeah,
America. Um, I'm American and Canadian, so I can see both sides of the
I
border.
know you are. Yeah.
And I think that, like, I remember being on the motorcycle a few years ago in Maine, and we were like doing all the back roads, and there was a farm, and it was called Hard Scrabble Farm.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was, seriously, you named your farm like this is going to be a horrible, hard, meager existence that we're eking out on this land, right? And I get it. Maine is a rough, place to farm, I think. But
It is.
I think that we have come from these in the United States case of like Puritan ancestors that, for the North Americans, um, that came from Europe. And so they feel like they have to work hard, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like they're being judged on their production, right? We've been trained in school to like work hard, produce, do like all that homework that does nothing for you in most cases.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a little shift away from that in the education of like not as much homework and like rote work versus more doing a project and doing things to reflect on and think about versus just like writing out things. So I think that comes in. And I think the media perpetuates this, right? Like if you look at the stories in the media, number one, they position rich people as evil, which there are a lot of rich, evil people, as we're finding out even more right now.
With the
And
Epstein files. Yeah.
yes, right. But so the thing is that they're portraying like from the time we're a kid, when you see Cruella de Vil, right, with her fur coat made out of puppies, right? She's evil. And instead of saying like, what are the rich people like Mackenzie Scott that are giving billions away that are helping people, right? And so we're seeing the glorification of the people that aren't giving back, and the people that are giving back are like outliers, right? And so we're really like those people that are working 8 hours, 80 hours a week or 120 hours a week or sleeping in their offices like Elon Musk have been glorified versus the person that's like, oh my gosh, I have kids and I want to spend time with them and I want to enjoy them and, go to my kids' basketball games or go to my kids' gymnastics. Those are not the people that are they're not being appreciated as much. And I think
No, I agree.
I've seen the difference between when my kids were born, and now my stepdaughter, she's pregnant and they have parental leave, right? My husband had parental leave and he's like, I can't take that.
Yeah.
Right? Because he said that
And
was looked down upon.
Yeah, and my late father, Stacey, was a CFO in the insurance business for an insurance broker. And he never missed his kids' sporting events. He always had time. He always had time. I mean, times have changed too.
Yeah.
The way we're brought up when we were younger, our parents knew all our friends' parents because they socialized with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the parents have no clue who their kids are around. They have no clue who they're brought up. It's totally, I agree. It's totally changed, and the dynamics of the world have. And why do people, the American way is to build a business and build it and be successful. And then when people are successful, oh, I don't like Jeff Bezos. He's a millionaire. Yeah, so you should admire a guy like Jeff Bezos. Honestly, if you're a business guy, whether you agree with his personal life or not, because he's built his business a very successful way, right? That's kind of.
I'm going to agree to disagree on that one.
You can. Well, I'm speaking from a business perspective.
From a business perspective, I can admire what he's done.
Not all the other stuff.
The other stuff. And I truly believe that as a business owner, we want to create a legacy, not just create money,
Yeah.
right? And so like, what are we doing to actually give back? How are we improving our communities? How are we creating that ripple effect in our community
Yeah.
that we're giving back and making a difference in the world?
Yep. Yep. So true. So that's kind of where we're at there. Um, it's funny. So the entrepreneur comes in and he's working all those extra hours. What do you say to him about the burnout? Like how do you convince him that he doesn't need to work 70 hours a week?
Well, a lot of times it's harder to convince the people that are working 70 hours a week until they get to that point that they're just like, I can't do this anymore, right? It's kind of like they've hit their rock bottom. A lot of times
Yep.
it's like a spouse pushing back or a partner. They've missed something with their kids. I mean, my dad was 56, he died and he had all of these regrets, right? And
Hmm.
he hadn't done the things that he had wanted to do with
Hmm.
his family and stuff. So what I will really do is look at, and I have had a lot of entrepreneurs that were in that spot, is I'd ask them, like, we start my At a Zero Without the Hustle framework starts with
Yeah.
lifestyle design. What
Yep.
do you want? Like, if you could have anything, what do you want? Like, for me, I wanted to be there with my kids when they got off the bus. I wanted to be able to go to their competitions, support them, all of that, and create these awesome family things at the lake with my kids, travel with my
Hmm.
kids. And so that I had to build that into my business. I tell my husband I could work 100 hours a week if I wanted, because all the ideas I have, even with I can't implement all the things that I'm excited about, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to look at what you want, and then you need to get really focused in on your zone of genius, right? What is it that you
Yeah.
can do, only you can do in your business? Delegate a lot of the things, right? Which also is going to make it easier because you're paying for things that, number one, you might not like doing, and things that are time sucks, energy sucks, and are not your zone of genius.
Yeah.
So I would tell them to do that. I had a gentleman a few years ago. He had a business that he was that classic, working 80 hours a week guy with little kids. And after working together and really focusing in on, like, what are the revenue generating activities? What are the 20% that are going to give you the 80% of the results? He started taking Fridays off to take
Yeah.
taekwondo with his son. He took his family on their first vacation to Disney World together. Like, he started making that shift. His company was still on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. So
Mhm.
it didn't stop his growth. It made his growth even better because he was able to then relax, enjoy, focus on the most important things in his business
Yeah.
and in his life.
Yep. And I think what we have to get is you have to work to live, not live to work. I really say that a lot. And I look at my own self. I worked in the private sector for 21 years. I was in healthcare in Canada and IT. Do you know I was working 70 hours a week, 60 hours a week? And I look back at it and I say, why? And now I probably work 10 times smarter and I'm probably working 40 or 45 hours a week. The other problem that entrepreneurs don't do well is they do not let go of stuff. They like to micromanage everything. So that means they have to have their hands in everything. They have to do their accounting. They have to do their books. They have to do their website. They have to do their IT. They have to. And as a result, they're not spending time on the tasks that actually make them money.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client that he started working with me. He was at like six figures. He went all the
Yeah.
way to eight figures working together. And he insisted on doing his graphic design.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is not your zone of genius. And it wasn't even good graphic design, right? It was not
Mhm.
like, if somebody who is a graphic artist took this, it would have been way better and it would have taken less time. And my client at that point could have focused on his zone of genius.
Mhm.
And so I pushed back, as his coach, and said, like, this is something that you need to let go. And he finally let
Yep.
go of it. We still joke about it, like, that you're at eight figures and, like, okay, at least you're not still doing the graphic design. And he actually went off to sell the company and called me last year and said, I have big news for you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, because it was super secret. It was in big negotiations, multiple bidders, and he sold it for a very, very nice fee that he was not even, it was way more than he even thought he would ever get. So
No,
he
I
took
agree.
himself out of the business, which enabled him to then sell the business, which I think for a lot of people in our age group, we need to think about, right? Like we're
Mhm.
using our business to fund our life and, investing in retirement and things like that. But your business doesn't have to continue in perpetuity with you in charge of it. You can sell it if you set it up in a way that it doesn't depend just on you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the things I do every year, and I'm doing it in 2 weeks, I'm going to go spend a week in the Dominican,
Oh, nice.
and I am about to take a hands-off approach. So my rule is I've got things in place that things get looked after when I'm gone. And unless it's a dire emergency, and that means the ship is burning down or somebody died, I don't want to hear from anybody. And I literally um, and I was the worst at doing this. I outsource everything, but I go on vacation, and what goes in the bag? A laptop, right?
Yeah,
I don't take a laptop on vacation at all. I
that's
take an
amazing.
iPad. I take an iPad because it's a consumption device, but I do not take a laptop at all with me anymore. My partner basically says if a laptop goes, it ends up in the toilet, so it does not happen. And I
That's
just say
good. That's good.
because the point is you got to take time for yourself. So I've gotten better at doing it.
Yeah, no, and I think also I recently saw something that a very successful eight-figure entrepreneur posted on Instagram last week, and he said
Mm,
a lot of men think their relationships are okay. And what they don't
yeah,
realize is by the time the woman in their life says we need to talk, she's already
it's over.
decided she's leaving,
Yep.
right? And she's been thinking about it for years. And you haven't listened to any of her things that she's been
Hmm.
complaining about for years.
Hmm.
So by the time she's like, we need to talk, it's too late to go to counseling. It's too late to fix it because she's been thinking about how she's leaving for the last 2 or 3 years. And he
Yep.
actually had that happen in his relationship. This very successful entrepreneur, he took a year sabbatical out of his company and started going on all these retreats and all of this. And now he's talking about how, like, this intersection of entrepreneurship and
Hmm.
divorce and relationships, how, people need to take responsibility for it. So I thought that was really interesting.
It is. And the other thing is you need to have the right partners. So some partners don't appreciate entrepreneurs. I was married for 3 years and I'm divorced to a lady who, she wanted all the benefits of what came out of the business and the income, but she thought a lot of stuff I did wasn't making money. And I'm like, where do you think this money's coming from? And so they want all that. And I wasn't working more than 40 to 50 hours a week. I mean, I wasn't working exorbitant. And
Right.
my current partner and is like amazing. She gets what I do. She cares about what I do. And that's part of it too. Like you got to have the right fit in your life
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
And I'm lucky. She's got a busy friend cycle and she's also got a busy social cycle outside of us. So
Yeah.
that helps too.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
I think there's a part of it. What I would say is like it's a wave, right? As an
yep,
entrepreneur. So for example, right now I'm in my winter wave, which is
yep.
I'm working more in my business right now
Hmm.
because it's winter. It's minus 23 today. Like I would love to go for a walk. My dog doesn't want to go for a walk, right? I spend that time more focused on my business. Then when it's summertime and we have the lake house and we're like going out on the boat or whatever, I'm cutting my hours shorter because my kids are there, their friends are like, so I know that this is a cycle of when do you want to spend more time with your family? So like for example, in December, I block that time out with the family there.
Yep,
But then
yep.
January comes, it's like, okay, it's time to go in the go cycle. So I think there's times that you can work harder and go harder, but you need to have that rhythm of that wave of like it goes up and then it goes down. And one of
Yep.
the things, one of the gentlemen in my mastermind, he's been in my mastermind for 8 years. And he's funny because he's like, you always bust me on this, because he gets really, really busy in his business and then he gets some slow time. And as soon as he gets that slow time, and this is the way his business is supposed to operate. And so it's not because he's not doing something wrong that it's a slower time. It's like that's the way it's set up. And when he gets in this slower part of the cycle, he starts to get nervous and wanting to like blow things up and do busy work. And I'm like, no, this is your time to like regenerate, so that when you have the next generate like go cycle, because he's raising money, it's like he's ready to go. Like don't mess with the lower time that you have time to relax and optimize the things behind the scenes that you need to do.
No, it's so true. And you've got to have that downtime. Businesses do go in peak and valleys. I have clients of mine that are retail clients. Well, I'm going to tell you, January is quiet for retail, very quiet. So is February.
Yeah.
Very quiet. So, and they know that. And they, as he always jokes with me, he runs a jewelry store in the Toronto area. He says, but I have to do business all year round. And that's a good attitude too. So,
Yeah.
there's some of that going on. I want to dive into one other thing. We're talking about all this hustle, time management. I don't think entrepreneurs do a really good job of managing their time. Most of them. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So, and we touched on this a little bit of like the 20% of things that give you 80% of the results.
Yep,
and so I think
course.
part of it is that entrepreneurs are not focused in on their zone of genius and what they and only they can do, right? And being able to delegate things. So like, for example, sometimes I admit I poke around in the backside of my website, or like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I mess it up, or I get stuck and I send it back to my team. And it's usually when I'm having like an inspiration that happens. And but it's not a good use of my time. It would have been a better use of my time to be like, hey, here's my awesome idea, and here's what we're going to do with it. And I want this, and this. But because I have this energy behind this idea, I tend to run with it. And entrepreneurs are usually known as quick starts, right? So we are like quick to go, and then we have trouble to do the implementation. So I think it's very important that you have the visionary and the integrator, and you have some team that helps you do that stuff behind the scenes. And then looking at your calendar, like, what are you doing that's revenue generating activities? Because there's a lot of what one of my coaches like 20 years ago, Chris Barrow, used to say, like, you're in the BS cycle, that you're doing that stuff of like, oh, I'm going to make my website prettier, or I'm going to work on the design of this, or I'm going to tweak that. And it's just, it's busy work, and it's not moving you forward. So staying out of that BS funnel and going to the, marketing funnel, right? What's the revenue generating activity that I'm doing this week? Who are the people I'm talking to this week? What am I doing that's outward facing and getting more business? That's what you need to be focused on.
Yeah, I agree with it. And not only that, you've got to manage your calendar better. I mean, I know with me, for example, I only let clients book into my calendar on certain days. I'm really fussy. I have time to do that, as you call it, the BS work. And I put that on my calendar. It's there. And then there's there for revenue generating. And by the way, meetings aren't always revenue generating.
Right.
Doing this podcast is not always revenue generating indirectly, because it is a promotional tool. Let's be honest.
Right.
But the point I'm making is you've got to put the time on the work. And my whole theory, and I've talked about this, is if it's not on the calendar and it's on a to-do list, which is a word that I hate, it should be a task list, not a to-do list, personally. If it's not on the calendar, it's not getting done.
Absolutely. And I love the fact now, like, I used to use the planner pad, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
I loved that. And now, like, I still like to plan. Like, I use my iPad with the Apple Pencil, and I'll write things like ideas, things like that. I really tend to, even though I'm an AI consultant, I still like to write things out, go on my whiteboard and write it out. But the difference is now is I can take that picture, pop it into AI, get the list, and then put it into my ClickUp, and then delegate it out to my team, or, give myself a task to do. It's a lot of times, like, I know myself, I love the creation and the planning and the ideas, but then we have to have that implementation. So you need to also be really clear of like what needs to go in the parking lot. Like, this is not an idea for right now. And I'll a lot of times tell my clients in my mastermind of like, okay, this is a fantastic idea. How does this fit in the plan for this year? Right? Because a lot of times the new idea is more exciting than the one that they already said they were going to do, because it's new.
Yeah, it's true.
Not because it's a better idea or going to work better. It's just because there's that energy behind it of like, oh, I had an idea. So is it something that needs to bump something else off the calendar? And if so, when? And can we schedule it in? If not, then let's put it on in the parking lot and say, like, let's look at this in Q3. Let's look at this at Q1 next year. But really we have a limited amount of time, energy, and team to do it with, even with AI helping you, that you still need to be really clear and focused. And a lot of times in my mastermind, a lot of things that we do is say no.
Yeah, I agree. There's a really good book out there called The Art of Saying No. And every business owner, if you haven't read it, needs to go read that book, because it's an awesome book and it teaches you how to say no. And my biggest thing is, when I say no, I don't give an excuse. I say no. Why not? Because I said no. I leave it at that. Because the minute you give an excuse in business or your personal life, then it becomes up for debate on the excuse, not that you said no.
Exactly.
So that's a bad idea. The other tip there is, with entrepreneurs, is your lives are busy. A lot of us have kids. A lot of us have spouses or partners. Make sure you use one calendar. Don't put your personal stuff in a separate calendar thinking that's a good idea. It's really not, because you're going to miss something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is hard. I get that, like with my daughter being in competitive gymnastics, now I have one that's in competitive swimming. Like my husband has a big career. There's a lot of things to manage, and I don't have a family locally to help me with any of that other stuff. So, it all needs to be on the calendar so that you can make sure that you're aware of it and showing up for it.
Now, I have to ask, because you are an AI consultant, it's how does AI help? Is it just the automation side of it, or is it more than that in trying to manage all this?
Well, I have a very strategic way that I use AI. I don't use AI just to, add a bright, shiny object or like a squirrel, right? Like a lot of people, just like anything else in the marketing world, people see something new and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Like that whole quick start entrepreneur personality. And so as these new AI tools come out, people are like, oh, I'm going to do AI videos, or I'm going to do an AI podcast, or I'm going to, whatever the new thing is. Like in the last few months, it's been AI clones, right? And so there has to be a level of, again, saying no is like, is this the right thing for you? Is this the right thing for your business? Is this the right thing for your brand? And so we look at it strategically. Some of the things that I'm doing with my clients is helping them with their content, right? That if they're an entrepreneur that's still in that phase of their business, that they're doing it, or if they have people on their team that are doing that, how to make the voice sound like them. So I have a proprietary process, the SASSY method that I take them through of how to do that. And I feel like a lot of times they're using it as a sporadic, like Google. They're just like, oh, I'm going to just ask AI, versus using it strategically. And what I mean by that is like, let's look at the places that AI can add value to your process. So for many of my clients, it's proposals or RFPs. So I have a client who gets these huge RFPs that are like 25, 30 pages long, right? It used to take weeks, if not a month, to respond to that proposal, right? So now what we can do is we can look at, what does this client, which is like $1 billion company, want in the RFP or proposal? What does my client have as his strategic positioning, right? Because we're really clear on his strategic positioning that makes him different in the industry versus being a commodity competing on price. So we've already clarified that. That has been programmed into his AI. So now we're able to take these two things together and create this in a fraction of the time to create these proposals, which means it's a revenue generating activity versus just like, oh, I'm going to help it say a nice email, right? And
I
so we
agree.
want to look at the places that you can use it that are going to help you for revenue generation, and then also
Yeah.
for time freedom. That's the lens that I look at the AI with.
Hmm. I so heartedly agree with you. What, I think we've given, as I think about this conversation, I love this because there's a lot of what you do in your coaching is around productivity and around mindset and around things like that. And I've told you, I'm such a mindset and a productivity guy. If I've read one book on productivity, Stacey, I've read 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm always looking for 5 more minutes here or 10 more
yeah,
minutes there.
yeah,
And it's not what people have to realize. It's not about taking this stuff and just kind of implementing and saying, I'm going to read a book and I'm going to implement 50 things. Don't do that. Read the book and maybe take one or two or three things and implement those.
absolutely.
Do it in stages. Don't overwhelm yourself. Um, and it comes back to something we've talked about several times in this podcast is, as one of my mentors, Paul Toby, you say, if you don't like doing it, get somebody to do it. If you're not good at it, get something to do it and concentrate on what makes you money, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the good thing too with AI is that there's things in your business that you're doing over and over again that you're not good at
Yeah.
or you don't like doing. And even proposals can be something like that because you're happy to get a proposal because you want to get a new client, but you hate doing the proposal. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really being clear on like what are those things that you can use that, like you said, take 1 to 3 things. Don't take 50 things and change your whole business model around it.
Yeah, it's so true. Stacey, I love this conversation. We have to have another one down the road. I don't think this is the last one. I hate to say it.
Oh,
And
that'd be fun.
and I can see it happening offline too. I wish you really well with the book. When the book comes out, I have to have you back. I love authors. I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
awesome. Yeah, we'll
I'm
definitely.
an avid, I don't know if I've told you, I'm an avid reader. I read a book a week. And at the time of this record, I'm reading, what am I reading? I'm reading The Let Them Theory for the second time by Mel
Okay.
Robbins, if you
Yep.
know
With Mel
that book.
Robbins. Yep.
Yep, my partner's listening to the audiobook, and to support her, I've decided I need to reread the book so we can have some
That's a good book.
conversation.
My
So,
my kids, they've been reading Mel Robbins and getting a lot of value out of that.
yeah,
I'm reading
yeah.
right now The Science of Scaling with Dr.
Oh, yeah,
Benjamin Hardy.
I know it.
So that one's been a good one. And it's actually really good with our conversation today about like the get it, the no, and like really
Yeah.
narrowing in your focus. So yeah, I love reading books and taking the things that are good for your business out of that to apply instead of just like putting it under your pillow and hoping it helps.
Yeah. If somebody wants to reach out to you about consulting, mastermind group, or anything else you do, how's the best way
Yeah,
to
go
get
to
in
my
touch with?
website, which is staceyhylen.com, Hylen, and that's help
Mhm.
you leverage everything now, how you spell my last name.
Yep.
And the other way you can do is you can go to more clients and cash. And some of the things that we talked about today with the custom GPTs for the AI of how to do that,
Mhm.
raising your rates, there's a custom GPT on there that's a lot of the strategies from my book that are going to show you quick ways to get revenue increases without doing more marketing. And so
Oh,
go to
that's nice.
moreclientsandcash.com and you can get that whole custom GPT that walks you through how to do those fast cash activators.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Stacey. I really appreciate you making the time today, and you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me, Rob. It was great. And remember, everybody, don't just learn, implement.
You got it. Don't be a professional learner. So true. Thank you. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Stacey Hylen for joining me on this edition of the STM Show. The STM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.